Welcome everyone. I'm Maria Marshall. I'm the director of the North Central Regional Center for Rural Development. And not only am I your host, but also one of the speakers today on a Friday afternoon, which we hope will start your weekend off with a big hubbub this Friday. We're really looking forward to talking to you about some insights from our multi-region household survey that we're going to be presenting today. But before we get into the presenters and who's presenting today, we will take a little bit of a hiatus for the summer. So there won't be any webinars in June or July, but we'll start back up in August. So August 27th at 2 p.m. We'll have our first webinar of the fall semester, which will be Artificial Intelligence Use and Extension, Insights from Ohio. And so we look forward to that very timely topic starting in August. And without further ado, I will start off the webinar this afternoon. So again, we're going to be talking about the regional pulse insights from the 2024 multi-region household survey. The guest speakers are Susanna Bednarek, who's research and extension specialist at the NCR-CRD. Here hosted at Purdue University, Dr. John Green, who is the director of the Southern Regional Rural Development Center hosted at Mississippi State and is professor in the Department of Agricultural Economics, and myself, Maria Marshall, director of NCR-CRD and professor of Ag Econ at Purdue University. And this is, as you can see, a Regional Rural Development Center product. We're happy that all the sister centers came together to work on this data set that we want to make available to you. I do want to say that the Regional Rural Development Centers receive funding from NIFA, so we want to acknowledge the funding that we receive from them to be able to make things like this possible for you. So I'm going to start off with an overview of the surveys, and then we're each going to talk about some things we think are unique about what you'll find in the surveys that are different from other data sets that you might find out there. So, what is the baseline 2024 survey? What do we do? Well, it started with the North Central NCR-Stat. We did a baseline survey in 2022. And then our sister centers came along with us for 2024. And so we worked with the Southern Rural Development Center and Auburn University to develop our survey, tweak some things from 2024, which Susanna will talk about a little bit later. And our primary aim is really to understand the conditions, issues, challenges that are faced by rural and urban communities in the North Central, Northeast, Southern regions, and the Western, which is forthcoming this summer. So we're very happy that this is actually going to be a national survey and that all 4 regions are going to be represented. And you'll find information in the surveys about households, businesses, and about community well-being. So the purpose of the baseline survey really is, again, to understand the conditions and issues faced by rural communities, but also compared to urban and suburban. In all of the different regions. We also wanted to provide regional and state level data so that if you need to use this to leverage for C data, for more in-depth studies, for other funding, there is something there for, I would say, researchers and extension and all 4 program areas of extension. If you think about ag and natural resources, 4-H in terms of workforce and youth development, consumer and family sciences, and community development. So we really, when we talk about a baseline, it's because we are thinking about taking a holistic approach to the kind of questions that we're asking of households and individuals. Again, the data is for researchers, extension educators, practitioners, and decision makers. We hope that you'll be able to leverage this for multiple publications, extension curricula, but also other funding that you might go for. And of course, our data is open access. So you are able to download the data immediately. Even as we're speaking, you can go and get the bundles for all 3 regions. So you can use it like right now as well. So the reason that we really wanted to collect the data and make it open access is because we know that data is expensive. And not everybody has all the resources that be able to get out there and get data. And particularly data on rural communities and households can be expensive, can be hard to find. And so we wanted to provide that to you so that you could know if we are moving the needle or not. And with that, I'll pass it on to Susanna to talk about the survey methodology. Susanna, you're muted.
Yes, thank you, Maria. So I will give you a few information about the way how we collected the data. Actually, we used the online, the survey was conducted online using the Qualtrics platform, and the Qualtrics company was the one who collected the data for us. And additionally, they also use the computer-assisted telephone interviewing called CATI to reach offline households, especially in remote rural areas in Nebraska, South Dakota, and North Dakota. We received in total nearly 15,000 respondents covering, as Maria mentioned, 3 regions in the US: North Central, Northeast, and South. The survey explored a range of topics critical to household and community well-being, and you can see it on the screen. The survey content that includes quota questions, household demographics, creating resilient communities and economies, moving and staying behavior, civic engagement and community belonging, promoting community health and wellness, and also a few questions in the area of environment and climate change. To ensure a demographic structure that aligns with regional profiles, we employed best effort quotas throughout the sample design process. What you see on the screen are quotas applied in Northeast and North Central region. The Southern region applied slightly different quotas that would better correspond with their regional profile. The quota includes share of non-family and family households. So we wanted to have around 36% of non-family households and 64% of family households. We oversampled the rural households, so the portion is approximately 30% and 70% of urban. We also had quotas in or by race and Hispanic origin of the householder. Regarding gender, we wanted to have at maximum 60% of female respondents and at minimum 40% of male respondents. And we also cared about the age distribution to align with the national profile. So we identified 3 age groups for our respondents. As Maria mentioned at the beginning of the presentation, we already conducted one baseline survey in 2022, and the recent survey 2024 includes many questions that were adapted from the first survey. And also we created new questions to gather any additional data, or we adjusted the questions from the previous survey. We also developed a bridge between baseline survey 2022 and 24 to be able to compare whether the questions are the same, if they are different or missing, or we have new questions in the new 2024 survey. So we have a lot of topics covered, and the green sections are brand new in 2024 surveys. So recreation economy, moving and staying behavior, and food security supplement are very new topics covered. This slide, or here you can see the breakdown of respondents by states. The green color is North Central region with nearly 4,400 respondents. Blue is the Southern region that includes, the survey includes the highest number of respondents, 5,500. And finally, Northeast region is orange with about 4,200 respondents. We are also in the process of collecting data for the Western region. Now it's gray without the numbers of respondents. It will change soon, so we expect by fall this year we will have covered also Western region and will be able to provide data on the national level. And with that, I give the floor to John.
All right, thank you so much, Susanna. I'm going to provide a basic overview of the social, demographic, housing, and locational characteristics of the survey respondents. And the intention here is to give you a broad sense of the type of people and households that the survey data represent. As was just mentioned, there were sample criteria that were used and monitored for collection of the data. For the most part, I'll share characteristics of the three regions combined, just to give you a sense of who these data represent. So to start, you see that we have representation across age and gender categories. Participants had to be 18 years of age or older to participate, and the distribution that you see here falls within the sampling criteria that Susanna just mentioned. For marital status, the three largest categories were respondents married with their spouse present, those who never married and were living alone, and those who were divorced. Considering family households, the median number of family members living in the household was 3, with a range from 2 to 11. And this is for people who are interested in social demographics and family characteristics. We think that these data will be very useful. With race and ethnicity, respondents could choose all the categories that applied, and you see the representation in the data across several groups. As would be expected from the sampling criteria, given broader population distributions, a majority of the respondents were white, following in frequency by Black or African American respondents, and those who identified as Hispanic or Latino. The bottom of the table shows how many respondents chose one race or ethnicity category compared to 2 and 3 or more. And on the race and ethnicity variable, this was one of the examples where, as Susanna mentioned, we had slightly different thresholds for the South. And this was one of those variables that we monitored because of that. There's also a broad representation across various levels of educational attainment. Over 1/3 of respondents noted their highest level of education as being a high school diploma or equivalent, followed by those with a bachelor's degree. You see representation from a multitude of educational attainment experiences. Now, here's one of the areas that we think will be very useful for folks interested in analysis across the rural-urban continuum. The survey included 2 self-report measures to address rural-urban location, and these were asked in 2 separate places in the questionnaire. The first asked respondents for their current residential location using 3 descriptive categories, including urban, suburban, and rural areas. And you see sorry, I clicked too many times. There we go. The descriptive categories were included as part of the response options. With this item, nearly 28% of the respondents answered rural, and you see some variation by region, with the South having the largest portion reporting rural, followed by the North Central and then the Northeastern regions. So this is one of the ways in which that was captured. The second measure asked about the location of their household, but with 8 different categories. ranging from completely rural area to a city of 500,000 people or more. For this slide, I collapsed the measure into 5 categories, and you see that 36% of the respondents reported living in a rural area or town with less than 5,000 people, which is what many folks will use as the cutoff for rural-urban comparisons. Not shown here, one opportunity that some of you might be interested in would be to cross-tabulate these 2 measures of rural-urban location to create custom categories for further exploration. And so that's something that you would be able to do in using these data if you wanted to drill down a little bit more in terms of different combinations. Respondents were asked a variety of questions about their housing. For those who reported a family home, condominium, apartment, or manufactured home as their usual place of residence, a majority indicated owning their home as opposed to those who rented or had some different kind of arrangement, which is also included in the data. Home ownership was highest in rural areas and small towns and lowest in large cities, but even with the latter, nearly 51% reported being owners. Survey respondents were also asked about their use of computing devices, access to the internet in their home, and types of activities. Just as an example, on this slide, you can see the internet sources used by respondents. Participants could check all that applied. As would be expected, cellular data was the most frequently used, followed by high-speed broadband such as cable, fiber, optic, or DSL service. Respondents in rural areas or towns with less than 5,000 people were the least likely to have high-speed broadband service in their home and slightly more likely to use satellite. So hopefully the broad overview that I've provided will give you some sense of who and what kinds of households the survey data represent, as well as getting you thinking about some of the research topics you might want to explore. I'm now going to turn it back over to my colleagues to share some of the insights on questions related to migration and staying behavior.
Thank you, John. Migration and staying behavior is one of the new sections of the survey that we included, and I will provide a few questions that are included in this section to give you some information that we consider pretty unique and comprehensive because we covered both migration behavior, staying behavior, and also behavior before moving to the most current location. So among others, we asked respondents about their intention to stay or move in the next 12 months. The chart shows that most respondents prefer to stay in the community they live right now, and only 21% would like to or plan to leave in the upcoming year. And out of those who want to stay, 37% are urban respondents and 63% are rural respondents. In this slide and in the upcoming slides, I collapsed the location of respondents to only urban and rural, or urban, suburban, and rural, just to make the comparison easier and more transparent. We also look at the column chart shows that the intention to stay in rural areas increases with age, which is not surprising, but it's very interesting. And there is also a difference between rural and urban younger population, as you can see on the two first columns, that the share of the younger rural population who want to leave is higher than that of their urban counterparts. We asked for the reasons why the respondents want to stay in their communities. Respondents provided a variety of reasons for wanting to stay, and it was quite surprised that nearly 70% of respondents in both rural and urban areas reported that environmental and geographical local conditions motivate them to stay. It is followed by economic reasons and community characteristics. So looking at the details for reasons to stay in the category of environmental and geographical local conditions, it shows that in all three location categories, respondents prefer to stay because of the natural amenities, followed by, especially in the case of urban respondents, that they like their urban or their environment, and in case of urban respondents, they like the urban environment where they live right now. Regarding economic reasons, across all three location categories, the respondents replied that they cannot afford to move, and rural respondents also replied in a high amount that the low living costs are the very important reason to stay. Affordable housing is among the three most often reported economic reason to stay. We also asked about the reasons to move. The responses are more evenly distributed among respondents compared to reason to stay. But again, environment and geography are number one reason to move, followed by housing reasons and economic reasons. Surprisingly, community amenities are not so common reason to leave the community and live somewhere else. So again, in environmental and geographical location, lack of natural amenities is number one among all respondents across all three categories. And also suburban respondents reported very often the negative impact of climate change. The economic reasons, high cost of living is number one, especially for urban and suburban residents, then unaffordable housing, and for rural respondents also the lack of job opportunities. Loneliness is another new topic included in the baseline survey. We have about 8 questions about loneliness. I will show you one. We asked, how often do you feel lonely? The slide, the chart shows a pretty even distribution of responses across all spectrum of the of responses. There is also a pretty similar. There are also quite similar responses between urban and rural respondents. We also do not see much differences between men and women and rural and urban respondents replying, feeling lonely often or always. What we see we see a difference in how individuals perceive loneliness, which is very interesting because especially we see the difference between urban men and urban women, how they feel lonely or never feel lonely. 27% of urban men reported that they never feel lonely compared to 17% of urban women. And I think I was very fast, so it's turn for Maria.
Great, thank you, Susanna. And I'll remind you that at the end of our presentation, we try to leave some time for questions that you might have about what you might find in the survey. So I'll talk a little bit about workforce participation and entrepreneurship for those that are interested in kind of these households and business owning households. So obviously we asked about employment status, and again, we tried to use the same common color throughout the presentation. So green is rural and orange is urban, if you haven't caught on yet. And we see that about 9 to 10% of the 9% of the rural, 9% of the urban population is self-employed, and 10% of the rural population is self-employed. And that actually does align with national statistics for self-employment. And then we see that there's a higher percentage of urban respondents that were full-time full-time employed. Then employed part-time is pretty similar between rural and urban, as well as those that are unemployed. 3% students across both. For retirees, pretty similar as well. And then there's a greater percentage in the rural areas that are not working for a variety of reasons. I will delve a little bit deeper on the self-employed. So for those that are self-employed businesses, you can see I made their characteristics by employment, the number of employees that they have. We have about almost 25% that have no employees. So those would be, if you look at the small business administrations, they usually tend to call them non-employers, which are a substantial portion of small businesses or self-employed businesses. And then you see that, as you would also see, a greater proportion have less than 10 employees. Usually about 89% of most small businesses have less than 100 employees. So this is pretty much aligns with what you would see with national statistics in terms of number of employees that you would find for businesses. 34% were family businesses, which we asked that question. 47% are copreneurs. Those are spouses working together in their business. So there is a section that asks some questions about copreneurs, so the day-to-day management together in the business for those that are interested in kind of those household dynamics as well. And then about 2% are farmers as a primary occupation. And I say primary occupation because we did ask if people farmed. And when I first looked at the question, I was like, oh my God, we have 11% of people farming. That is so much bigger than the 2% that are usually farmers. Well, if you cross that with primary occupation, then yes, about 1.9% of the sample are farmers. But we do have 11% that are farming in some type of way. So if you're interested in those sets of questions or cross tabulations with that, there is a nice percentage of sample. And again, it does align with national statistics of the number of people that are farming as a primary occupation. So we also asked some questions about how they thought about the community support of their business. So the bottom, this is the percent of self-employed that believe that their community supports small businesses in their community. And you'll see that a greater proportion say moderately, and then it's pretty evenly distributed, so kind of complete normal distribution of from extremely to not at all. So that was interesting to see. But we also asked how easy or difficult it was to start or grow a business in their community. And so you'll see that about 11 or so, a little bit over 10% said that it's very difficult. and a lot less than 10% said that it was very easy. So for the most part, people think it's difficult or very difficult or neutral about the ease to start and grow a business in their community. I think that's pretty interesting to those that are interested in community reciprocity with small businesses in their community. We also asked some questions about community trust. And I think you'll see that throughout the presentation, we've tried to pull out some questions that we think are different from what you'll find elsewhere besides the demographics, and asking some questions that we just think are different from other surveys. So we asked people how much they trust people that are their neighbors, coworkers, church, healthcare providers, and I divided this by region. I thought it would be interesting to see regional differences, not just urban and rural differences. And so the first one is, how much do you trust people, distrust or trust people that are your neighbors? And you'll see that, I guess, the North Central region are just a little bit more trusting than the other regions of their neighbors. The Southern and Northeast are pretty similar. And then we asked about coworkers. We'll see that the Northeast region is a little bit more trusting of their coworkers than the other two. Their church or place their worship. We see that the North Central and the Southern a little bit more trusting of the people they worship with than the Northeast. And then the people where you shop, that work where you shop. It's interesting that North Central is more trusting of those. Then the people who educate your children, pretty even across all the three regions in terms of trust. And healthcare providers, people who provide your healthcare. And we'll see that the North Central is a little bit more trusting, and then it goes down from there to the Southern region. But I thought that's an interesting to see the trust that people have in the people in their community. We also asked about trust in local institutions. So here it is by region again. And it's pretty interesting to see that the Southern is the least trusting of their local institutions. So local government, trust in local government, trust in local media, and trust in local police. And the Northeast and the North Central are pretty similar across. Then I did divide it by rural and urban. So on my left side, I guess, is the rural, and it's trust in local government, trust in local media, and trust in local police. And so it's divided by rural and urban. And you can see that there's actually quite a bit of trust in local police. And local media and local government probably have some work to do in terms of rural and urban communities in terms of the trust in local institutions. But again, I think it's pretty interesting to see these divided by region and by rural and urban. So here, I'm sure you are waiting for bated breath. For the QR codes and where to get the data. So you can access the 2024 regional data sets. We have the QR code. You can go to each region's website, and we also can have the website where you can find it directly and download the bundle for each of these regions. And of course, you can combine the three regions together. And I would say that if you have an issue doing that, please let us know. We are happy to send that and help you with that. And with that, we want to thank you for coming to our webinar. We'll open please put questions in the chat. We're happy to answer any questions. If you can, and get your comments on what do you think about the data set. Oh, and I think Mary put all the links in the chat as well. Well, we got to thank, so you're more than welcome. Remember, the data is open access. Okay, great. We'll get a question here. It says, is unemployment high because of timing of the survey being close to peak of pandemic? So this data was collected in 2024. So that would have been, that's 3 years after the pandemic. So 2022 was probably coming after, but this data was collected in 2024.
I have a question. Could you talk a little bit about any publications or reports that have come out of the data previously and any that are planned for this round?
Sure. I'll start off and then Susanna can fill in as well. So publications, we have quite a few, what we call in the North Central region, our stories behind the numbers in our research briefs. So those you'll find on our website. And we are currently have some presentations and publications in the works. Susanna, you want to talk about a couple of publications you've got in the works?
Yes, we have currently in a review process in a peer-reviewed journal the paper about the staying decisions among millennials generation. We are working on the publication about the child caregivers well-being in rural areas in North Central and Northeast region. We are working on the publication regarding the small business owners' well-being. All these works include data from the data sets conducted by NCR-CRD in collaboration with other centers. And as Maria said, we use the data for our research briefs. Our students use this data a lot for their work as well, that which they can publish on the website of NCR-CRD Center or elsewhere, and for their thesis as well. We use the data for presentations for extension to inform them about the situation, for example, in the area of caregiving. So especially caregiving data are often used by caregiving or groups of caregivers in extension and also out of extension, like outside external institutions that provide different reports or just want to know about the situation in caregiving, especially in rural areas. So yes, we have quite a variety of uses of the data sets, yeah, and the data.
John, do you have anything in the works?
Yeah, I was just going to add, and knowing that Anne asked that question, that we do have some items on here related to heirs property or property that's been handed down across generations without a will, dividing that property. We think it's one of the few surveys at this scale that's included those questions, and so that's one that we're very interested in, given work with the centers on that topic. And then it was also mentioned in terms of topics that were included this year on outdoor recreation issues, and that's something that all of our centers are interested in, and working with working groups both within our regions and nationally. So we hope that those data will be really useful.
Let me go up to some of the questions here. Do we need to do any? Do we need to know anything about weights? We haven't. We did not do any data weighting, so no. I would say. And was there any basis for assigning quotas? Yes, we assign quotas to make sure that we can be representative of the different, at least regionally. We may not be represented for every state, but at least regionally, we are demographically representative. And we're also oversampling with an oversample of rural. So that is, we are represented, but we do oversample rural households. The other question was, when do we expect the Western data set to be available? I'll pass that on to Susanna.
We are now finalizing the IRB process and the contract with Qualtrics company is prepared. So as soon as we have a green light for data collection, we will start. And the process of data collection usually takes between 2 to 3 months, depending on the quota specification and how easy or difficult it is to reach the population, the respondents. So our plan really is to get the data released by the end of summer or during fall. I would say during fall for sure, to have the data publicly available with QR code, DOI, and everything that is necessary to cite properly the data and use them for any reason you want them. So by fall, during the fall 2025.
We hope that that's the latest. Let's see here. Unemployment follow-up, the 12% unemployment and 10% unemployment shown are much higher than the US average of 4%. Are there any explanations to why the sample is much higher than the national average given the data modeled after US profiles? So our demographics are modeled after the US profiles, not necessarily employment. So I can't give you an explanation right this minute as to why the unemployed is much higher. People could have checked all that applied as well. So a student could have checked unemployed as well, although I tried to clean that up. But I can't give you a definitive answer as to why it's much higher than the 4% unemployment rate. Although I think there's something in the how they calculate unemployment when they calculate 4%, that sometimes my understanding, it doesn't calculate people that have decided to not participate in the labor force. But John, you might have a better sense of that than I do.
That was going to be my gut reaction as well, in terms of how the calculation is run between the survey data versus the unemployment official statistics.
Yes, and I would add the same, that the registered unemployment might be slightly different from the unemployment reported by our respondents. So yeah, there might be differences. And I see in the questions also, are any geographic identifiers available at a finer level than region in your data set? Yes, our data are on the state level. We do not have zip codes or county because our budget didn't allow us to go lower than the state level, but we have the state identification for each respondent, and it allows us to go on this level. And we also have the rural and urban location, so we can even use the geographic location within the state, at least to know what city size or whether it's a rural, suburban, or urban location.
Let's see. I also see a question about trust. Did we define the word trust? We did not define the word trust, although I'm sure it does have many definitions. We actually used a common set of questions that has been used before, but we did not define the word trust. But that might be something we do maybe in 2026, if that's something that's important. I know that before we gotten that question when we did 2022 about community, and we put a little definition about community in 2024. So we do learn every single time we're making the surveys about what things and definitions you all think is important for your work. And so it's something that we're constantly evolving on.
And I might add that we ask about trust in the section related to civic engagement and community belonging. So I am not so experienced in trust definitions, but if there are differences in trust definition, there might be some indicator how to define trust in terms of civic engagement, but we ask the trust questions in this relation or in this context.
And there's a question about any plan to collect data on agritourism. So there are some questions about the recreational economy, which I guess Susanna and John, you want to talk a little bit about what's there? I don't know. I think it does touch agritourism in some way, maybe.
No, we didn't touch the topic about agritourism, despite it's super important and interesting topic, because we couldn't include everything we would love to include. So we have questions regarding outdoor economy, mainly in terms of community involvement and the participation of respondents in outdoor recreation. It means why they enjoy, or if they enjoy outdoor locations, and why not, and what motivates them to visit the park or some outdoor areas. But we didn't ask about agritourism.
But it's good to know. We are always evolving and always looking at different topics. So that's always something that we can put on our list.
There's a question about how researchers who would like to use the data, what are the steps?
Download the bundle. You can go to the links that Mary put, or any of the NCRCRD website, for example, will take you to the NCR-Stat and will take you to all of the data sets. The Southern region has a link on it too on their website. And so you can download, if you go, it's the Purdue University Research Repository. You can click on the bundle and you'll get the data. The data has the code book, which I forgot to say. I always say these are beautiful code books. Easy to use, read, and goes straight to the data. The data is in Excel, so you can upload into, if it's BSS or Stata or SAS, whatever, or R, whatever program you use. And there's always a technical document that tells you how the data was collected, the quotas, all of those things. If you're in the North Central region, you'll also find the bridge to the 2022 baseline survey. And it's open access for you to download as well. If you have any questions, you should feel free to contact us. We are happy to help you if you are having trouble with any of the data sets. And we do have, besides the baseline, there is a caregiving data set. That's the North Central and the Northeast region. There's a small business data set for the North Central region. And then again, of course, our 2022 baseline survey. So all of those are open access and for you to use. And for us, the Regional Rural Development Center, success is that you are using and citing the data, because we are doing this because we want you to be able to have data to do your research and extension with.
And I will react on Another comment, do you think we can use state level data only? Yes, because state identification is part of the respondent's characteristics, so it's very easy to filter only state relevant responses and do the analysis, do different analysis only on the state level.
Any other questions? Well, if not, always you should feel free. If you think there are other topics that we should be trying to collect data on, you should always feel free to contact us as well on those. We're always looking to topics. I believe for the North Central region, our next topic might be on housing. And so we're looking forward to delve a lot deeper into what is going on in the housing, which is not only a North Central region problem, but or issue, but all across the country. So, but we're always looking for different topics or different things that we can do to be of service to you in all of our regions. With that, we thank you so much for having your Friday afternoon with us. We appreciate you hanging on at the end of the semester, and hopefully this gets into and having a wonderful weekend. Thank you.